think about who influenced you in your personal or professional life, or both. Picture those folks in your mind. What do you picture? Sage advice, new perspectives, support with guidance, belief in you as a person and as a professional, challenging your own assumptions on various topics, having your best interest at heart with no hidden agenda. These are just some of the qualities we gain in a powerful mentor-mentee relationship. Mentors are a gift, and they can be very rare. They're rare because they're intentional. I use the word intentional because that is what it takes to be a great mentor and a great mentee. Yes, it is a two-way street, a commitment that can take on a journey of its own, meaning there is a structure that has some flexibility and creativity that works for both parties. Mentors can be a surprise or can be set up through a network of connections. What makes it sometimes difficult is for a mentee to find or ask someone to serve as their mentor unless there is a designed program. Now, let's complicate the situation a tad bit. What if you were moving to a foreign country and knew no one but your spouse or partner who just received an incredible opportunity to earn a living and contribute to the host country's intellectual community? So your partner automatically has a network built in through their new work life. But what about you? You might think, well, I'll just support my partner. But what if a year's opportunity turns into much longer and you've remained an expatriate without a network of support of your own? How might you feel, and what is the risk to your marriage or partnership or even your family if there are children involved? Personal contentment can count for a great deal in determining longevity in a new environment. And what happens to the investment made by the company, university, or organization that has found the ideal talent and expertise? Welcome to Small and Gutsy, our podcast featuring nonprofits and social enterprises under $10 million. My name is Dr. Laura Shirk-Witkoff, and I'm excited and proud to be your host. We hope you'll love the stories as much as we do, and perhaps you will find needed services, a job, volunteer, invest in, or donate. Small and Gutsy is not just a podcast, but a 501c3 nonprofit. Our vision is to spotlight every smaller nonprofit and social enterprise to raise their visibility. So please help me with our vision and send me any organization you'd like featured to laura@smallandgutsy.org. Two very smart women saw a pattern developing in their midwestern city of St. Louis, my hometown actually, after one attended a meetup group organized by Susan Gobbo, one of these very smart women, who is Brazilian and who experienced the loneliness of a trailing spouse herself when she moved to St. Louis in 2008. Years later, she formed a meetup group for other foreign wives. Schlafly, the other very smart woman who is active in various community groups, heard about the meetup group through the St. Louis Mosaic Project, a regional initiative within the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership and the World Trade Center St. Louis, formed to attract more immigrants to St. Louis, invigorating the region with rich culture and intellectual stimuli. Annie convinced Susan that the international spouses would benefit from meeting more St. Louisans, and the two founded the International Mentoring Program, also known as IMP, in 2017. Over the last 7+ years, the program has paired over 600 international newcomers with local mentors. They meet one-on-one in small groups and for larger events, such as sports games and other local fare. Beyond fostering human connections, the program aims to solve a real business problem. According to a Harvard Business Review study, a large percentage of expatriate business postings fail. Many executives ask to return home earlier than planned. Others underperform on the job or leave the company altogether. I am so very excited to introduce my three guests today. Annie Schlafly, co-founder of IMP, is passionate about welcoming new people to St. Louis and the bi-state region to ensure that everyone who moves to St. Louis has a positive experience. In the past, she has served on the St. Louis Internship, on Women's Society of Washington University as a president, on the board of the St. Louis Public Library Foundation, and she has been chairman of the board of St. Louis Hospital. She's also a past recipient of the Women of Achievement Award. Susan Gobbo is a Brazilian with Portuguese and Italian heritages, finding no support for herself as an expatriate spouse and passionate about learning about different cultures and connecting people. She co-founded the St. Louis International Spouses Group, to help other international women feel welcomed and accepted in their new home. Susan is the co-founder and is the program director of the IMP. Furthermore, she co-founded the Immigrant Professional Women's Network Group with the mission to educate and elevate immigrant professional women to integrate and thrive in the St. Louis region. Susan received the St. Louis Mosaic Project Award in 2018 for outstanding dedication to growing the St. Louis region, the St. Louis Women of Achievement Multicultural Enrichment Award in 2020, the United Nations of St. Louis Diversity as a Mary T. Hall Award in 2022, the International Institute Community Advocacy Award in 2023, among others. And Laura Wilson, Executive Director of IMP, her previous roles included Chief of Development at Epworth Children's and Family Services and Vice President of Development at Mission St. Louis, both located in the greater St. Louis area, working towards bettering St. Louis. So let's get started. Welcome, Annie, Susan, and Laura. So Annie and Susan, being co-founders, you clearly had passion for making folks feel at home, a true midwestern sentiment. So let's start and share with me sort of how that came about. And I just have to say, being a transplant, first on the East Coast and now on the West Coast, and in St. Louis and myself, I love Midwesterners. It's really hard to take. You can take the girl and put her anywhere, but you kind of can't take the Midwestern stuff out. So honestly, this does not surprise me that you all, I mean, Susan, having started this because of your own experience, clearly that was incredibly important to you and the loneliness that you have probably experienced. And Annie jumping in to say, gosh, we got to keep people here who are already engaged. And I just think that for me hones in on a true Midwestern value, but it just may be my rose-colored glasses. So I'd love to start with Annie and Susan because this is how this came about. And then we'll move to Laura. And I wasn't sure whether we would have a guest appearance today.
Well, she cannot come today. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, she couldn't.
That's okay. And actually, Susan, you kind of serve as that because you started this, but you were also in the same boat yourself. So I feel like even without, an additional mentee, you actually can share those stories. And I think both Laura and Annie have stories they can share themselves. So Annie, do you want to start being the president? And then will you guys just kind of chime in?
Okay, well, great. Well, I have to say it starts with Susan, who created in 2016 the International Spouses Meetup. And I was introduced to Susan by Mosaic, which I think you mentioned. And I said, how would I meet these amazing women? Because every city or most cities or a lot of cities have an expat group. And it's a wonderful place for internationals to feel a connection, to meet other internationals. But my goal was to integrate them into the community so that when they are given a promotion or have an opportunity to leave, they are so connected here that they think twice. They may have to go, but they just don't say, hey, we're out of here. We'll find another expat group. So I asked Susan if she would be willing, because she said I could not join that meetup, if she would bring 5 internationals and I would bring 5 locals. And it started in 2017. We thought we would have one meeting, they'd meet their mentor, and then they'd go on their happy way. But then after that meeting, they said, when's our next meeting? And so for 6 months, we had a pilot program where we created it. And then in 2018, we launched. And now we're at 66 groups. And
wow.
It continues to grow. Susan, as the program director, will tell you there's just no stopping it. So it's been wonderful. And 76% of the people who we interact with are still in the city, which is huge.
Wow, that's huge. Very unusual.
Just to chime in, not just 76% are here, but 76% say the reason they are here is because of our program too, which I think is like a huge number that really describes our impact.
So Susan, I'm going to take you back to 2007 or whenever, when you came to St. Louis as sort of the trailing spouse, as you cite in some of the written material that I've read. Tell me about that.
Yes, it was interesting because we, as a family, we always dreamed to live somewhere. So when there was this opportunity to come to US, we said yes. We knew that would be hard, but we didn't know how hard it would be, especially for me. I could not speak a word in English. So, and we didn't come with the mindset to stay forever. And so it was like 2 years, and then we would go back. So it was a great opportunity for me and for my daughter to learn the language, to learn a new culture, to have this experience, right? The first year you are, trying to learn about the environment, but it was very hard for me because I could not work. I was not thinking about working. I didn't have visa that would allow me to work. I was under my husband's visa. So I was at home alone most of the time. And for my husband, it was like a promotion for him because he was invited to come over here. My daughter, she had friends at school, but my life was totally changed. Back in Brazil, I was working. I was the head of the ICU department in the hospital, and suddenly I'm at home. So it was a big, big change. I started thinking that I had a problem. Like, okay, I don't know why I cannot find my people here or anything. But then I realized, okay, I'm part of this process. There's a process when you move to a foreign country, so you have to adapt. But I didn't have, like at that time, there was no resource like international mentoring program, anything that could, come over here, you are welcome over here, or you have a mentor to introduce the city. So how we get there if you don't know anyone, if you don't have any contact.
And Laura, you and I talked about it, but also a sense of belonging, like feeling part of something and part of a community. Like the community wants people here. They want this diversity. And St. Louis has a terrible rap as far as, unless you went to high school here, we're really not interested in you. And that is so not true. And an example is the mentors who have signed up. We have more mentors right now than we do internationals waiting to meet internationals. And the mentors are engineers from Boeing, heart surgeon at Children's. I mean, you wouldn't believe these locals who are signing up, Illinois, St. Charles, everywhere in the bi-state region, they want to be part of this. So it's thrilling.
It feels to me like it's not just sharing about St. Louis and getting people acclimated. It's also taking a deep interest in the culture of the other. So I don't know, is that true?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
It feels that way as you're talking about it. And therefore it allows someone to bring their own culture into the conversation, into the network. And so one feels more whole as a foreigner to say, oh, let me bring this special dish, or let me show you this special dance that we do, or whatever it is. So it just sounds that way to me. And I love that that's an added bonus. Laura, I'm going to toss it to you because I see you're ready to I want to talk about the program. Yeah. Okay.
Of course, I'm going to talk about everything. No, I just, so in our cohort meetings, we have 5 meetings that they do with their cohort that they have, which is 5 mentors and 5 mentees. And one of those cohort meetings is a presentation on one of the mentees' countries that they come from. And so that's like another way, just as you were explaining, where they're able to share their background culture and share that with other mentees and mentors. And so that's why I think it's a beautiful thing. And then another cohort meeting we have is potluck, where everyone tends to bring a dish from where they're from. And it's just a great mixing of cultures and experience. And I think this is like any type of volunteer experience you do, right? You get more out of it than you put in.
We have like other activities like book club. So in the book club, we read like American author books or, international author books. So it's an opportunity for us to discuss also the culture through fiction. And it's more interesting than the book itself sometimes because the conversation, different perspectives from people from different backgrounds, different cultures. And we have our chef's club as well that we go together, we teach a dish from that country, and we learn what this dish represents to this country as well. So there's like different activities for the mentors to get to know the other cultures.
I love that because it also exposes them to worlds that they may not have otherwise, learned about, which is really amazing. So I want to go back for a second. So this was an organic process. You brought 5 mentors and 5 mentees together initially and thought, we'll just have a meeting and see kind of what happens.
Mm.
You had paired people up from that initial meeting, or was that just a meeting bringing people together? Take me back and then we'll move forward to where it is now.
So that first meeting, Susan brought in 5 internationals and I recruited 5 mentors, but we did not spend the time to do now on each pairing. It was just like, let's bring a group together and see what happens. But now it's very intentional. I mean, Susan meets with everyone with another American and she takes notes. And if we have an artist, we put them with an artist. If we have someone in St. Charles, we're not going to put them with someone in Illinois. I mean, geographically, we do it, interest, we do it. And these matches have really been amazing. The friendships that have formed have just been incredible.
Usually, usually we start 1 or 2 each month. So this year we started 14 new cohorts. We asked them, what do you want to get from the program? So we try to pair people with kids, no kids. So we are very intentionally with this
Which
matches.
is great. And I love the idea of the location too. If someone is geographically, if it's not advantageous, people will not take the time to be able to meet. And are most of these meetings in person?
5 of them are in person. Actually 10, 5 group meetings and 5 one-on-ones.
Oh, that's great. And how large is a cohort, a typical cohort, would you say?
It varies. It's 5 mentors and 5 mentees, and then we have 2 team leaders that make sure the ball is rolling. People are meeting. There's consistency there. As Susan said, we've had 14 start this year, and last year we had 10. So as you spoke earlier, Laura, the need is just continuous. So we are continuing to grow.
Social media is doing it now. I mean, we're really out there, so it's word of mouth. And yeah.
So walk me through the program. So Susan meets with everybody. Susan, you have a list of interview questions, connecting with somebody, learning about them and their interests. And then what happens?
Yeah, it's me with another mentor who is American. So actually two mentors. So we have a virtual, we call interview, but it's just to explain the program and answer any questions they might have and get to know them. And it's very, how can I say, special, because sometimes they open their heart and they say, oh, especially for international, and they say, I would never, imagine to have someone here who wants to meet with me. So it's very, very touching. And so we have this interview for mentors and mentees. And so we interview everybody, and then we sit together and we discuss the matches. And then we pick team leaders, as Laura said. Every cohort has 2 team leaders. They have been to the process as mentor and mentee, so they know how the program works. So they help to oversee this group of them, take a good care of this group, and they report to us. So if there's something they let us know, but that's the program. And and then we set up the date for the first cohort meeting. It's when they will meet for the first time, their mentor and mentee. So it's very special. It's where they share their stories, and it's touching.
You're highlighting the relationship, and you're highlighting the culture of both parties, frankly, because people in the St. Louis area, the American culture, it's still something people are gravitating toward and trying to learn about when they're the first time here. They have ideas of what it might be like, but they don't necessarily know. And Susan, as you're talking, the word that comes to mind, you use the word touching, which I think is so beautiful when there's an individual who opens their heart and sort of says, I can't believe someone wants to take time and learn about me and cares enough about. And the word that comes to mind for me is just kindness.
If you're ever in St. Louis, we would love for you to attend one of these first ones, because It is so moving. This is a moment in time where people are talking about issues they have, and everybody in that room, they realize immediately cares deeply for them. It is amazing. Sometimes there are tears from the international, sometimes from the American, but finally they have the sense, and the power of women in that room has been something I hadn't anticipated, really. And we also include men, and we talk about the families, but there is a real sense of women caring deeply about other women. Yeah.
There's a vulnerability there, with everyone telling their story. I would say it's one, that first cohort is my favorite, because, you know, these women get together not having known each other, and then, you know, they're able to tell their stories. I would say, and Susan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I would say probably half of those first cohort meetings, somebody is crying. We had, in one of our recent ones, we had a woman who moved here from Russia, and she was like, you know, she had left her son, who's an older teenager in Russia, and she just is talking about her, you know, move and everything, and just everyone comes together, and it is just a beautiful scene of all these amazing women who have doctorates and have done these wonderful things, just create a safe space for everyone.
Share with me you mentioned a few activities. What are some of the activities that are happen almost with every cohort?
The first one is the cohort kickoff meeting that we were just talking about. And then they have the second one is like a happy hour or something. Actually, one of our recent groups have decided they want to go dancing together because they all like dancing. So it really depends. They kind of decide in that first cohort meeting. Another one is the international presentation. And then for sure, our final one is a potluck. And then we also have a wine and cheese event at someone's house. Those are the different ones that are required. Now, we always say that, but honestly, and we also say, please meet with your mentor mentee 5 times. It ends up people meeting more often. They meet in different ways. The mentor mentees, we always get to see pictures of how they're meeting up. And so some of them are at the park with their kids, or some, you know, went and painted together. Some went to the art museum. So it just depends on their likes. Right. Hiking is another one that a lot are doing. Not right now while it's cold, but we get a fair amount of pictures, and it's just beautiful to see the different things that everyone is doing.
I love that actually a cohort can also make a decision themselves in terms of what activity they may want to do. So there's a structure with flexibility based on the cohort and the personality of the cohort, which is just amazing. And that matching mechanism is so important that you talk about.
So important. So important. I always say, you know, here in St. Louis, we have a lot of nonprofits, and the US in general, right? We have a lot of nonprofits. I think, having been around them, what makes this program work so well is that we have that 30-minute interview with just the mentor and mentee. As we've grown, and we now have over 660 participants, and we're continuing to grow. We're like, oh, that's taking a lot of staff time and resources, but it's honestly what makes it work. I always joke that Susan should be a matchmaker. And and I'm pretty sure there have been marriages that have come about from some of this. So I just think that that is honestly what makes it work. We're not just pairing up willy-nilly, you know, random mentors and mentees. It is very precise,
it's very
and
intentional.
Yes. What I have noticed with our internationals is if they move here and they're the trailing spouse, you know, breaking in, it's a lot of who do you know, right? When you're trying to find a job. So that's also what this network and this organization helps with, is setting those up, which I think is very important. But our corporate partnership program that honestly we launched this year and has been wildly successful is we bring this cohort in-house. We have one where they provide the 5 mentors, and we provide 5 international mentees for them. The beauty of this is they're getting volunteering, they're hearing from different voices in the community, and they are learning more about the actual St. Louis community. And then teamwork. We had somebody who was like, oh, because you were one of the other mentors, I knew someone in IT, so I was able to reach out directly to you instead of having to wait. So it is creating this teamwork and communication across the organization. And so it's really beautiful to see. And then we also have some companies that are doing it where they provide the 5 mentees, realizing these companies here in St. Louis that, like you said in the opening, it is so expensive to move people here. And if they're going to pour into the training and things like that, they want the people to stay. I always say happy wife, happy life. So even if their spouse isn't happy, we do welcome spouses into those corporate cohorts. So we are just trying to make sure everyone gets connected with St. Louis. But these corporate partnerships are wonderful for our corporations here to be able to provide this as a resource to their international employees.
And then we have one other, well, not one other, but we have another that Susan's going to talk about on the International Women on the Rise with a mentor who came to us and told us about this program. Yeah.
So one of the mentors, she is a career coach. And when she was at the first meeting, in her cohort meeting, she realized that a lot of women, they are looking for a job here. They don't know how to start. They haven't been working here, so they don't know the process, how to apply for a job. So she came to us and said, oh, I have an idea to coach a group of 10, 12 women. So do like sessions, and I can provide material and resources and support for them to find their way to find their jobs over here. So we started
January really, or February. Yeah.
This year. So we had the first cohort, like 10 women, and 4 sessions. And after that, from the 10, 6 got the job, even before ending the program. And now she designed another cohort for people who want to get promoted in their careers. So they are working, but as international, they don't know the way to, how to get there. So she's actually, this weekend is going to be the last session for this cohort. And we are together the new cohort for 2025.
And it builds confidence and their resume, everything about it.
An experience, like the experience of working in a foreign country for them as the spouse or the partner, which is great.
We place them on boards as well. So sometimes, that brings confidence before going to find a job. So we always say, try to volunteer. So we have like a person who was a doctor. She started volunteering in the hospital. The other one was biologist in the botanical garden. So we make this connection.
That's so great. And again, you're capitalizing on their talents and engaging them in the community through their talents and interests, which I think, again, would make people feel seen and heard and connected. It's a great thing for St. Louis. And my guess is that this may not be in other cities and could be a great thing for other cities. And have you thought about?
Oh, I was going to say, yes, we have. So this is my sweet spot. Yeah. So we're about to launch a new logo and website, and our new tagline is going to be I am StL, so that we could also have I am CHI for Chicago.
Great.
But, we're not there yet. What I'm more interested in is trying to have people who are either in another country or in California, and the cost and everything else, and they look around, where should we go? And they go, wow, look what's going on in St. Louis. And they move here. We have a physician who's from Mexico. And because of the program, he just convinced his brother, who's in Boston, to move his entire family here, because he said, you will feel connected in the city. And he's not feeling connected in Boston. I mean, it's not the tsunami by any means, but for me, that is what we're about. I mean, if we can start making that change, it would be
You're going to see a huge shift
amazing.
in St. Louis as a result of that, which is what you're looking for, which is really wonderful.
Yes.
And it's,
Yeah,
and it's a
yeah.
city that's more affordable. Boston is very expensive and can be isolating in and of itself without having a program like this. But I love that you're thinking on both of those trajectories, because they both have benefits for the individuals and certainly for St. Louis and for the other cities who may want to get involved. I won't tell Boston to wake up and smell the coffee, though. And other cities have different personalities and different cultures and different ways. And so it's, there, we can talk offline, but it'd be interesting to get someone on the ground there who you indoctrinate by maybe having them come to St. Louis and witness some things or how to create a program around it. But I love the idea. Yeah.
But in the meantime, we want everyone to
That's
move
what
to
I'm
St.
hearing.
Louis.
And this
So
doctor who's moving from Boston, because that's my former hometown. Yeah.
it's interesting. The World Trade Center here in St. Louis, when they're talking to international companies or whatnot, they bring up this program
Right.
because there is not another program as of what they know in the US. So it makes St. Louis desirable for that. So we will take it.
I would love to hear an aha moment that you experienced through the International Mentoring Program. What's an aha moment of someone you witnessed, whether it was a mentor or mentee?
There are too many, I think. There are too many.
I was afraid you would say that, but yeah.
I would use one that's Lou Serena. She's from Germany via Colombia, South America, but she was brought here to be the manager of a German seed company, KWS. And she arrived here. Susan and I spent 3 hours with her because the former manager had asked us to convince her to move here. She didn't want to move here. We took her out to lunch, 3 hours. We convinced her to move here. She's a diva. I mean, everything about her. She has a PhD. She had a 10-year position as a professor in Germany. And she arrives the day before, in March 2020, before we shut down here. And she is holed up in Clayton on the Park. And that was 3 years ago. And she is still here. It helped that she found an amazing doctor to marry, but it doesn't matter where she goes now. She is in love with St. Louis. And that's as important as people who stay here. If they leave and they say, you have the story wrong about St. Louis. I mean, that's really important for me because we get a bad rap all the time. And the women who move here say it's not true. I love the city. I love the people. I love the city. And I want everyone to feel this way about the city.
I love that. So for Laura and Susan, do you have a particular aha moment that you want to share?
Yeah, I definitely do. So mine was actually my second week of work as the executive director. We had our advisory board committee meeting, and we had mentors and mentees talk. And one of the mentees said, I moved here in COVID and I hated it, to be honest. And she was like, I moved here. It was terrible. I didn't know anyone. And then it was closed down. And she was like, I was trying to get out of St. Louis as fast as possible. And then she joined our program, met her mentor. And now she was like, if I ever, for some reason, have to look for another job, it's going to be here in St. Louis. And she's like, this is where I belong. Her mentor and her, like, they have, holidays together and everything. And this is her community now. And I remember being there, being like, I'm so glad I took this job. And just being like, this is the difference. And just hearing her say that, I was like, okay, we are moving the needle. And it's inspiring to hear.
I have one sort of backtrack question. I love that you have a book group, or that is that open to all cohorts, or usually does a cohort say we want to do a book group?
Yes. And we have other groups similar to that. So we have a sand volleyball group. We're starting a pickleball group.
Wait, sand volleyball, but you're landlocked. So explain that to me. I'm sorry. I'm like, wait, I live near the beach. I see volleyball. How do you do it?
Okay, there's no water, but there's sand.
I love it. I have never heard of this. This is great. Oh, this is hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, we have our book club. We have an English speaking group. We have a the chefs club. We have a happy hour for all cohorts that meets once a month. And so Susan, am I missing one?
Yeah, girls' night out. We
Girls Night
have.
Out. Yeah.
I want to go back to St. Louis and be part of this. This sounds so
Well,
much
come
fun.
on down.
So toward the end of my podcast, I always ask a round of quick and gutsy questions. So are you all ready for our quick and gutsy questions? They're fun. You'll each get an answer, so don't worry about that. And Annie, you probably won't like the first one because I know how important funding is. So you'll just have to get through that. So what is at the top of your wish list for international mentoring program, St. Louis? But the answer cannot be money or funding.
For me, it is that more people move here because they've heard about the program and what will happen if they move here. And we don't disappoint them. That is, I don't think we do. But as we grow and get bigger and bigger and institutionalize what we're doing, it just can't be this small little group doing, pedaling so fast, and that we continue the quality of the program and that people do move here because of what's going on. That would be thrilling for me. Yeah.
And for me, I think if they know about our program even before coming over here, so we can pick them up at the airport and have someone, welcoming them in their language, saying, you are here in St. Louis, we are here for you. So that would be my wish.
Yeah. So I think, in a utopian world, every nonprofit, if you're doing it right, you want to put yourself out of work. So I would, in a perfect world, I would love that every international comes to St. Louis and just finds a community and falls in love. However, we are in this growth phase and it's so exciting. And so I think, in a realistic world, we have 660 women who've gone through. I cannot wait for us to hit that 1,000 mark. However, I just as we are growing, so is we have 2 of us on staff. We are growing more. We're going to be hiring some more, but making sure we have the right structure so that we can grow and can sustain the program so it keeps being amazing. And so, yeah, we have our work cut out for us, but I would also say funding, but I know you told me I can't, so I will hold back on that one.
You can't. So if you were to think of a song that describes international mentoring program, St. Louis, what would it be? That's always a hard one for people. Or it could be a lyric.
Is there a song, Free to Be Me? I think there is.
Yeah. You know what? I think that's Marlo Thomas's. Isn't that
I
Marlo
think so
Thomas's
too. Yeah,
song?
that would be that would be
I
mine.
used to love it. You didn't say meet me in St. Louis. I'm impressed. That's a good one. So Laura and Susan, you both have an answer, so you can choose one too.
Is this song from the Toy Story movie? I Got a Friend on Me.
I love that song.
Okay, this is totally random, but I would say the Helen Reddy "I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar," which I love song. But I just feel like it's like, as Annie said, it's an empowering woman, seeing all these amazing women. So it was the first thing I could think of.
Yeah. I do too. I also think, wow, what an inspiration for any of those songs, So it really is, despite the fact that you're doing this for St. Louis, you're really doing this primarily for women. And women who otherwise would not get or feel connected. What makes international mentoring program gutsy? Because you're definitely gutsy and you're on Small and Gutsy. Hopefully you don't remain small, but you are gutsy. What makes you gutsy?
What makes it gutsy is that we're where we are today, because starting something from scratch is not easy. And the reason this was so easy is we had no expectations. It was just, we kept showing up. People kept coming and meeting us for coffee. We kept growing it organically.
And I also add to what Annie said, because we are working mainly with women, but they get home and they talk to the family. So that extends, so they are talking to their husbands, their friends. So it's like a wave. And we didn't think about that. We thought about just the women, but we are reaching a lot of people, even more.
Right. It's a ripple effect. So, Laura, what about you? What do you think makes IMP St. Louis gutsy?
We aren't afraid to try something new in case we fail. And I think that's really important in that avenue, but also just that Annie and Susan created this program and the determination to get it to where it is now. And then also the determination for where we're going in the future.
So what is something that outsiders or maybe even a few insiders don't know about the International Mentoring Program St. Louis?
The first thought when you say this is organization for women, they think like, oh, it's a tea party, but we have a deep conversation. We truly help them to their career or to their life. It's a very safe environment and very great conversation we have there because we have people from different countries. So it's a place that we have deep conversations, really. And it breaks stereotypes and barriers people might have unconsciously, but you are seeing this person with this accent, but you are seeing, oh, this person is biologist, it's a scientist, it's a physician. So it changes the perspective you see international people in St. Louis.
I think too, the numbers and the countries, there are 80 countries and 660 participants. Even insiders don't know because you're in a group of 10 and you're like, oh, okay, this is my group. But every group is an amazing group. So I think that's something that they don't know.
I was going to say the exact same thing as Annie. Just also even in the St. Louis region, sometimes we meet people and they're like, I've never heard of this program. And they kind of are like, oh, it's a small little dinky program. And it's like, no, we are small, but we gutsy and mighty. And having that 660, they're like, whoa, there's been that many women who have gone through this program, I think is, it's surprising. And I would love to get that out to more people as we're meeting with people and marketing more.
Maybe we should cut this in now too. You reminded me. So we were fortunate enough to become a 501c3 in 2022 and have a fabulous board of directors. They joined an organization they knew nothing about, or we have two men, one of them's wife is in the program. We looked around for different people to be part of the board, but they've been hugely supportive of what we're doing and make every meeting and weigh in all the time. So that's been incredible. And then we have an advisory board of about 24, and those are community partners, people in the community who we thought it would be good to connect with. So both of those two organizations have really been beneficial for us too.
If you could get one celebrity or influencer to talk about the International Mentoring Program St. Louis, who might that be? This is sort of a fun, silly, well, they're all quite fun questions.
It is. I feel like it has to be like either someone who's local or like someone who's from St. Louis or a famous international.
We are going to have an event, I'm pretty sure. We're still like trying to get the funding. I know I'm not supposed to talk about funding, but we're trying to get the funding.
You can now. That was only the first question. Okay.
And we're going to give the go ahead to these three divas who have recreated themselves. They bio PhD, biogeneticist, export import owner. I mean, these amazing three women have recreated themselves into fashion designers. And so they are creating their own line, and we are going to have an event around that. And so I wrote to Ellie Kemper. No one knows this because it's so ridiculous, and it's still ridiculous. But I wrote to Ellie and said, look, Ellie, I picture this. If you saw the Olympics with Tom, Cruise coming down in that motorcycle, I wrote her and said, what if you, Sterling Brown, and John Hamm came for our event and got on a motorcycle? It would be so amazing. It's a very long email. So I heard nothing. Then I got an email back from her that said, it's not ridiculous at all. Give me some time.
What?
That was 3 months ago. So I don't know what that means. I'm like, I doubt it. But anyway, that
I'm
really
just
be
now hearing about this.
I know, as they say, I'm so embarrassed for myself that I would even do that, but I thought I'd try it. We'll see.
Oh, you got
Yes.
it. You know what? That's being gutsy, Annie. So how do people reach you? What's the best way?
Yeah, they can reach us through our website, which is mentorprogramstl.org. And then you can also reach us through email as well, or phone. I'm not going to give my phone number right here on this, but my email is laura@mentorprogramstl.org.
So I just want to take a moment and thank the three of you for a fun, interesting, eye-opening, warm, kind conversation. This was so great. I learned so much. You've inspired me to think about moving back to St. Louis.
Great.
I can't at the moment, but I do. It certainly has given me.
A welcome
You're
party.
so sweet. It's given me, and I do visit because my family's still there, but it does give me this new perspective on St. Louis that, Annie, you have really driven home in this interview, in our conversation. And I really love that, because the whole piece about culture and diversity is what naturally people think about either coast, but they don't think about it in the middle of the country. And you are absolutely determined. And it's really a legacy to you and Susan. And Laura, your addition is so beautiful, because it's really what you leave and what you leave for the next gen. And I am so proud to say that I am from St. Louis in some ways because of what you're creating. It's really beautiful.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. It was just, as they say, delightful, really fun.
Please go to smallandgutsy.org to check out all of our episodes. And if you are so inclined, please purchase some Small and Gutsy merchandise, consider sponsoring an episode, or making a donation. Both are tax deductible to help keep us going and spotlighting these great organizations. The opinions and viewpoints expressed by our guests are independent and do not reflect the position or views of Small and Gutsy. Of course, we can't take responsibility outside of our own vetting of the organizations we interview, so before you sign on to support or work for them, we encourage you to do your own due diligence and research them as well. I want to thank my partners in this endeavor, the Intrinsic Group, my incredible board of directors, Brianna Carmichael, John Gatto, Lucy Mello, Ari McCoy, Melissa Greitz, and Serena Rajabian, who believed in me and this project enough so to sign on and to support this effort, and all the folks, friends, and family who have guided and inspired me. And thank you for listening. Together, we are spreading social impact, and you can help us. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to email me the name of any organization you feel would benefit from being interviewed. From small and gutsy to big with impact, I'm Laura Witkoff, and thanks for listening.